Hi guys. What I need you to do right now is let's make sure that we have our PBA packets out and they're open to page 4 so that we can take a look at the prompt. What I've done is I've gone ahead and I've written up a quick sample of what your paragraph should look like. You'll have your own voice in there, and that's fine. But what we're going to focus on today are the two bullet pointed questions. What were some of the key changes that occurred in the 1920s? And explain the conflict of the 1920s between modern and traditional values. Now, remember when doing the Peel format, and I have a breakdown of it right here, the link is going to be the overall question, and that overall question is to what extent did the 20s shape the idea of the American culture? Now, for the nature of these sections, we're just going to go ahead and quickly talk about, what is the state of it? Now, what I've done for each of these two questions is I've provided two peels, and I'm going to go through that. So since I have two peels, my introductory sentence is going to be different from my position. So in the very beginning for the first question, what are some of the key changes that occurred in the 1920s? I went ahead and identified that I'm going to talk about social and economic change. So during the 1920s, the U.S. experienced social and economic change. So the first one I'm going to talk about is, and this is my position, one example of this is the diversity seen in immigration. So my position is going to be the diversity of immigration is going to be the first change. And I'm going to start off, instead of having my evidence come from the document, I'm going to start off with my explanation. So I'm going to flip it a little bit. As students of history know, new immigrants or immigrants that came to the United States between the 1880s and 1920s were different from the Americans who were born here. So this is information that we studied way back at the beginning of the semester. I'm going to use that to kind of introduce my document. So I already have my position, one example, and then I'm going to have, well, you know what, let me do this. And then let's highlight it in red. So this is my position. As students of history know new immigration, and so this is going to be my evidence or my explanation. I'll do that in orange. Explanation. There we go. These differences caused an increase in fear. In 1919, the Chicago Tribune published a political cartoon titled Close the Gate. Now, what I've done here is I've taken the document, and instead of kind of I used the information about the document, the publisher and the date of it to introduce the document. This political cartoon labels new immigrants as undesirable. So this is going to be my evidence to support what I have already said. So let's highlight that there. And then now we're going to the overall question. It is common knowledge that the U.S. is populated with immigrants or the descendants of immigrants. As a country, we will struggle with the debate of immigration. This is going to be my link. And this is something that you're going to want to go into more detail when we get to the end of the paper, when we get to that overall question, to what extent did the 1920s shape modern America? So as you can see, I have my position. I did my explanation first, so I flipped that, and if I'm doing that here, you don't have to. You could do the evidence first and then the explanation, and then I linked it. And then I doubled this up. Now here's the thing. You do not have to do this way. You can add this in as another paragraph that's just continuing to support that question. But let's go ahead and take a look at this. Another change was brought about by the automobile industry. So this is going to be the economic change. So we'll go ahead and do this as the position. Henry Ford made a cheap automobile that allowed most Americans to purchase one. With the purchase of a car, okay, so this is going to be my evidence. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and use my prior knowledge as my evidence. Now, what you notice is I have specific names and dates. Henry Ford made a cheap automobile, and many Americans were able to purchase one. But with the purchase of cars comes the expense of a car mechanic, gas station, better road system. The United States is a car culture. So I have my explanation. With new changes, this is going to allude to how we have a new economy. And then finally, we have the United States as a car culture. We have that there. Now, you can go ahead and write this as one paragraph, or you can do it as two. What I'd like you to do right now is to pause the video, and I would like you to work with your shoulder partner and see if you can't identify your position, evidence, explanation, linked to the overall question. Also, make sure that you have cited the document, that you are using specific prior knowledge, and that you're focusing on the tense. All right, now that you have gone through that information with your shoulder partner, we're going to do the same thing with the explanation of conflict in the 1920s between modern and traditional values. So, the 1920s also saw a rise in social conflicts. So I'm doing the same thing here with this paragraph as I'm going to add two peels into one longer paragraph. So this is a topic sentence. So as one knows, the KKK was first created in the South during the Civil War. During the 1920s, the KKK spread to the North. As seen on the cover of this exam, a political cartoon compares the KKK to a moth working in the dark. This cartoon uses metaphor to show the damage the KKK can do to the fabric of the United States. The United States has always struggled with racism and nativism. All right. So again, I'm using my explanation first, and then I'm going to cite my document. So this is where we're going to see how I'm using the document on the cover, and then I'm also using the vocabulary of analyzing documents in the analysis of, or analyzing political cartoons in the analysis of this document. And one more time, I have gone ahead and linked this back to the overall question. The United States has always struggled with racism and nativism, and this is something that can go into greater depth when we see this again at the end of the week. I then moved on to another conflict, which was between religion and science. So these are both social conflicts. This conflict is seen in the Scopes monkey trial. This trial was about the teaching of evolution in public classrooms. So again, I've used my prior knowledge to introduce my document. According to the transcript of the trial, the debate focuses on the literal interpretation of the Bible. Document 1. Now, I didn't pull a quote from that, and that would be the perfect time to pull like a direct quote. It's a primary document. It's two people talking, but I wanted to kind of take a summary of it. Now, I'm not going to go into full detail and pull out like this man said this and Darrow said this. I'm going to just go ahead and do basically treat this as an introduction. And then if you are choosing religion and science as your conflict to go into greater depth when we get to the overall question, feel free to do that. That's why I just went through a summary of this. The conflict focuses on whether the church or the science should be the focus of the classroom. And then I went ahead and I summarized it again because sometimes it's easier to just kind of double down on that. And again, I have went ahead and linked this information to the overall question. So again, go ahead and pause this video or stop this video, and with your shoulder partner, go ahead and proof what you have done with your own work. Also, please make sure that you are making any corrections and start like